I think I should have figured it out before it happened, but they say your spouse is always the last to know. I think this is because the spouse trusts the person he or she is close enough to marry. That's why it's so easy to get overwhelmed. Yes, I'm busy, but I haven't noticed any changes to Lynn's usual routine. We all have routines, even if we don't think so. Lynn is beautiful for her 38 years. She is 1 meter 57 meters tall and weighs no more than 48 kilograms with wet hair. She has blue eyes and blonde hair, which she wears in a pageboy style. She makes men turn around. Lynn works as a realtor and makes good money. We have been married for 10 years and have a son and daughter who are in elementary school. We always arranged our schedule so that one of us was home when the children, Adam, 8, and Jenny, 6, returned from school. We decided early on that we didn't want our kids to be key men, those who carry a key on a chain around their neck to open an empty house after school. Lynn is a caring mother, and she is the one who helps the children with their homework. I am an aircraft mechanic and can work any shift that accommodates parenting duties. I am 1 meter 80 tall and weigh about 80 kilograms. I exercise a lot and play baseball in a local amateur league. My job is physical, and since I'm a shift supervisor, it keeps me in shape. I am not an aggressive person, rather a supporter of live and let live, but I will not allow anyone to push me around. I always stand up for myself and my loved ones. As a former Marine, I know how to fight back. You can call me Mike, almost everyone does, although I like the way my full name sounds when Lynn says it. It makes sense that a woman as young and beautiful as Lynn would attract the attention of men, and it's probably also logical to think that sometimes she can respond to them with a little flirtation. Many of my friends and colleagues always said how lucky I was to have Lynn and how interested they would be in her if she were available. I always took it as a compliment and never worried. Today is Saturday, and Jen and Paul are visiting us, good neighbors and friends with whom we rarely hide anything. After dinner, Lynn and Jen went out onto the terrace while Paul and I sat in the kitchen with beers. I notice Lynn and Jen are having some kind of serious but hushed conversation. Nodding the bottle in their direction, I ask Paul without much interest. "What do the girls have there? They look like they're up to something. Any idea what they're about?" Paul immediately tenses up and responds. "What do you mean?" I'm sure it's nothing like that. What do you even want to say, Mike?" "Come on, Paul. Just asked a regular question. Forget." Paul smiles tightly and says, "Hey, sorry, buddy. I'm just a little nervous lately. It's been stressful at work." I frown but nod. "Of course, no problem, buddy." We laugh, clink bottles, and return to normal conversation. But every now and then my gaze wanders back to Lynn and Jen, especially when Jen gives me meaningful glances a couple of times. Crap, I'm probably just stressing myself out. I get up and open a new bottle, one for Paul, one for myself. Bottled beer is much better than canned beer, at least for me. Although I am a hard worker, I have a higher education. I like to work with my hands, and this job came naturally when the demand for philology graduates in our city became too low. Oh well, life is good. A beautiful wife, 2 wonderful children, and no special problems with money. But my thoughts return to that conversation between Lynn and Jen. Something about him worries me, but I decided to forget about it, at least for now. The rest of the evening goes as usual. We turn on the music, I dance with Jen, Paul dances with Lynn, we laugh, joke, and the girls discuss children, school, and other feminine topics. At the end of the evening, we part in the same way. As always, I playfully hit on Jen, and Paul does the same with Lynn. Lynn and I clean the house and get ready for bed. We, of course, do not have a stormy, intimate life, but it is quite active, and we do it more often than not. Yesterday was just one of those no's, so I'm hoping for some intimacy today. Lynn takes a shower and puts on her usual night clothes, a t-shirt and panties. Damn, she looks so hot. When I crawl into bed, Lynn is already there, curled up in a ball with her back to me. I cuddle up to her, and she gently says, "Oh, Michael, not today, honey. I'm exhausted." "Tomorrow for sure, I promise." "Good night, darling." I don't answer, I just turn over and try to sleep. But sleep doesn't come. I lie there thinking about her mood. The conversation with Jen pops into my head again. Judging by Paul's strange reaction, there's clearly something there that I'm not supposed to know. It can't be a surprise for my birthday or anniversary, those are still a long way off. In the end, I still fall asleep. In the morning, when I wake up, I find Lynn snuggled up to me, her arm wrapped around me. My movements wake her up. She kisses my neck and gets up to get ready for her errands. It's Sunday, but she has an open house, so she'll be gone most of the day. In the evening, everything repeats itself. Lynn again finds a reason why she has no time for this. We just hug and kiss a little, and then she falls asleep in my arms. Her behavior this evening seems normal, except that I notice her talking quietly through the fence to Jen. The conversation ends abruptly as I approach. Jen smiles nervously, turns, and goes into the house. Paul works where I do. Today is Monday, and this week he is on the same shift, but leading a different team. We meet for lunch, and after the standard chit-chat, I get down to business. You know, Paul, I have a strong feeling that there is something that you, Jen, and Lynn know about, but that I don't know. Or am I just paranoid? Don't ask me anything I can't answer or anything you don't want to know, Mike. You know how Jen is. Paul is henpecked. But she shares with him all the information she learns from her friends and threatens to leave him without sex if he blurts out anything. Therefore, I do not put pressure on him so as not to expose him to his wife. However, he already answered my question. We finish lunch in a more normal manner. I didn't want to ruin his already not-so-rosy sex life. Towards the end of my shift, I take some time to call a private investigator and satisfy my curiosity. Well, a private investigator, if you like. I give him enough information that he can watch Lynn for a while just to test his suspicions. I decide to maintain a normal relationship with Lynn and the children until I get answers. What if I'm wrong? This thought flashes through my head. According to the detective, this will take about a week, and he will provide me with a full report. And if there is anything that requires photographic evidence, there will be photographs, so life will go on as usual. Next Thursday, Jen and Paul decide to go clubbing and invite Lynn and me. The evening is going great. I love music and dancing, and we have fun. We find a table near the dance floor, and Lynn dances with me most of the evening between drinks. Today, she looks amazing in a short, tight dress and high heels. After a while, two young guys come up to our table and ask if they can ask Lynn and Jen to dance. Paul and I had just grabbed a beer and decided to take a break for a bit, so we didn't mind. The only strange thing about this is that they take the girls to a dark part of the club. But since they are together, I think there is nothing to worry about. Paul and I talk mostly about work, whether he'll finally get his Honda Goldwing together, and whether he needs help. Regular topics. Looks like the girls stick around for a song or two with these guys. I notice that Lynn, Jen, and their partners have disappeared from the dance floor for several minutes, and I assume that they came out to get some air. The club is quite stuffy. I didn't bother looking for them because I noticed Jake, my detective, in the corner at the table, sipping sparkling water. I also noticed that he disappeared around the same time. I think if there is anything important, I will find out from the report. Just in case, I follow him into the corridor and ask him to add Jen to surveillance. It will cost more, white guy, he says. No problem. Just include them in one report. It will take another day or two due to the new facility. Give me until Wednesday or Thursday, and I'll give you a full report on both, with photos, timeline, and detailed description. Okay, I answered. This means that I will have to wait almost another week to find out my fate. I will either fight for the right to see my children, or I will hug my loving wife with a light heart. I return to the group, and Lynn and Jen have just returned to the table in time for one last slow dance with their husbands. Lynn is very warm and gentle. I take her to the darkest part of the club and slide my hand over her round ass. She immediately snuggles closer, puts her head on my chest, hugs me tighter, and presses her hands to my chest. She moans softly with a satisfied smile. When she does this, I raise my hands higher, one on her lower back, the other a little higher. She purrs like a contented cat. On the way back home, she is excited. I pull into the driveway, get out of the car, open Lynn's door, and when she gets up to get out, I close it behind her. I press her against the door and kiss her passionately. "Let's go inside, darling," she says in a broken voice. We quickly walk to the front door, and once inside, without even closing it, I unzip her dress, and she lets it slide off her body. I kissed her again in the doorway. Crap. It is at this moment that I remember that we have a nurse at home for the children. Otherwise, I would have already had sex with her right here on the threshold. Downstairs, only one light is on in the kitchen, creating a dim lighting, and Sally wakes up on the sofa when she hears us. I reach into my wallet, take out $50, and hand it to the wide-eyed nanny. Lynn is not at all embarrassed by being seen naked by Sally and heads towards the stairs. She smiles at the beautiful but clearly dazed girl and says, "Thank you, Sally dear. I hope the children didn't cause any trouble." "And no, Mrs. Ah, they were nice. Good night." Sally lives at the end of our street, so I walk her to the sidewalk in front of her house and wait until she comes inside. When I return, Lynn is still standing in the open door, illuminated by the street lamp. As I approach, she turns and bends over to lift up her dress, showing me and probably someone else her perfect little ass. "Lynn, you are a very, very bad girl." "Yes, I know, and I need to be spanked," I speak. Then upstairs, Linny. Later, after sex, I just look at this beautiful, petite woman with a flushed face and a satisfied smile. I can't believe she could be keeping some dark secret that could destroy us. I just can't. She falls asleep with her stockings pulled up in disarray. Alcohol, dancing, and sex took all the strength out of my baby. She curls up, her hand resting on my chest. Why suddenly such passionate sex after several nights of refusals? Could her young and handsome dance partner and lover of fresh air have something to do with this? So now I'm really getting paranoid. I decided to just admire her petite body curled up next to me. In her sleep, she looks angelic. I gently brush her hair from her forehead and kiss her. Tonight was wonderful, but I'm worried about how long it will last. In a few days, I will receive a report from a private investigator, and there will be something. But what? Looking at Lynn sleeping peacefully, I feel a painful knot in my stomach. One question is running through my head. What have you done, girl? What are my options if the news is bad? I know I can't stay with a cheating wife, even one as beautiful and mesmerizing as Lynn. God, how I love her madly. I just hope everything will be fine. But something deep and dark inside me tells me that a very unpleasant surprise awaits me ahead, which will force me to make a terrible decision. I don't want to think about it, but I can't get it out of my head. I carefully remove Lynn's hands from me and stand up. I lean over, kiss her, and go to the bathroom to get some sleeping pills. I'm not addicted, but Lynn has pills, and I decide to take one to help me fall asleep. The next day, Friday, everything goes as usual, but I keep thinking about meeting Jake next week. I'm terribly afraid of her. I fell asleep next to Lynn. Saturday morning arrives. I could sleep in, but there's a lot to do at home, so I get up with Lynn and make her breakfast. She has a colleague who will be sitting on the property she is showing, so we both have the day off except for her short visit to check. She suggests playing 9 holes, and I decide to put things off until tomorrow. After breakfast, she goes upstairs to shower and get dressed. As soon as she gets into the shower, I decide to take off my clothes and join her. When I open the door, she turns around abruptly. This kind of playful behavior is common to us. We have always been gentle and playful with each other. She has a mischievous side and a true mischievous heart. Wrapping myself in a towel, I take another and begin to dry her hair. She takes off the towel, quickly dries her skin, and turns towards me, kissing me. "Thank you, dear Michael. I'll wake up the children, and you prepare us breakfast, please." I give her a less than standard military salute, which is not appropriate for a former Marine, and say, "Yes, ma'am." After breakfast, we gather the kids to spend the day with their friends, Paul and Jen's kids. Lynn and I load the clubs into the car. When we arrive at the neighbor's house to drop off Adam and Jenny, I notice Jen pull Lynn aside with a serious expression on her face. They are almost whispering, and it seems that Lynn is reassuring her in some way. As we leave, I ask, "What was that about?" "Oh, Jen is just a little paranoid. Nothing important, just girly things." I decided not to focus on this. This weekend, I decided to enjoy my ignorance and be happy that I am married to my beautiful Lynn. We're off to golf, but first Lynn needs to stop by the house. She's showing clients to check on her coworker. This house is amazing. He'll earn Lynn a nice commission just for listing him. Her colleague, Marie, is talking to a young man of about 25. He seems familiar to me, but I can't remember where I saw him. If he's affiliated with Lynn's agency, I might have met him at an office party. But I'm wary of his reaction to Lynn and me together. We play 9 holes, and I finish with 43 strokes, and Lynn is 2 strokes ahead of me. Her handicap is 10, so she plays a little better than me. After the game, we drank beer in the club, and I just enjoyed the sight of my wife. The sun and exercise had turned her face pink, making her even more beautiful, although I didn't think that was possible. She is a little thoughtful, but sweet and attentive to me. Why is she so attentive? She makes fun of me for losing, and I have to admit defeat. I reach across the table, kiss her, and say, "You were better today, Linny, but next time I'll beat you." According to the terms of the bet, I owe her $10 for each blow, so I take 20 out of my wallet and give it to her. "Yep, good luck, dear, and it was a pleasure doing business with you." She laughs. I just look at her as if I see something new. Lynn is so amazingly beautiful that I have already caught myself looking at her. I catch her in different moments, in different light, with subtle changes that only I can catch because I know her so well, because I love her so much. Suddenly, she looks up and asks, "What? Is something wrong, honey?" "No. You're just especially beautiful today, Linny." "Oh, of course, with disheveled hair and tan skin, just lovely." "Yes, that's right." She smiles shyly, lowering her eyes. We discuss the game hits and misses. I made fun of her for driving her ball into the creek on the 3rd hole, and I remember how she took off her shoes and reached into the water to retrieve it. I helped her out, and barefoot she threw the ball over her shoulder. She looked like a little girl playing in a stream. She could have been 12 years old and could have been chasing frogs. Our little Jenny is a spitting image of Lynn and will look just like her when she grows up. One day she will be a joy in some young man's heart, just as Linny is in mine. Lynn is a truly sweet woman, and if she cheats on me, it will be the saddest day of my life if I have to let her go. What about Adam and Jenny? Will I be able to deprive my children of their mother? Will she deprive them of their father? These thoughts never leave my mind as I admire her from across the table. Lynn notices my thoughtful gaze, tilts her head slightly in curiosity, but decides not to invade my personal space. Instead, she too looks off into the distance, probably lost in her own thoughts. I'd give $1,000,000 to know what she's thinking. Until I have any proof, I intend to just live my life and love my wife. But I know it won't be easy. I'm scared, terrified, at the thought of the decision I might have to make. I know this will break my heart. That night, after we put the kids to bed, I knew I needed to talk to Lynn or I would go crazy. We sat in the kitchen, drinking coffee. Lynn looked so attractive sitting on the stool, wearing only one of my loose shirts and panties. I knew I would be awkward in this conversation, but something needed to be said. "Linny, darling, I had such a good time with you today. I'm so happy with my life, our life. I would be crushed if anything jeopardized this." What do you mean, Michael? What could threaten what we have, dear?" Nothing, probably. I hope so. Look, honey, I just want to tell you how much I love you. Lynn, you are the light of my life, and I would be lost without you." Lynn puts the cup aside, takes my hands in hers, looks me straight in the eyes, and says, "Michael, I know that you love me. You tell me about this with a million little things that you do for me all the time, without giving it any importance. These are small things, but I notice them. And I love you too, my dear." Crap. She disarmed me. Tears welled up in my eyes. Damn it. I'm a former Marine, damn it. We have to be tough. But this miniature beauty pierced me right through. She is very good at doing this. I was speechless, so she continued in a soft and sincere voice. Michael, the kids are already asleep. Take me upstairs and make love to me. I get up and approach her. I picked her up to carry her to our bedroom. When I pick her up, she flinches slightly. Her arms wrap around my neck tenderly, and her eyes become rounder and bigger than I've ever seen. We continue to look into each other's eyes until I lay her down on the bed. Later, we fall asleep. The next morning is Sunday. She does her own thing at the real estate agency, and I do household chores and do a little renovation. I end the day by changing the oil in both cars, which leaves me covered in sweat and dirt. I take a shower, and before she gets back, I cook dinner for 4. We are both too tired to do anything at night and just fall asleep in each other's arms. I have a day off on Monday, but my dear wife needs to go to the office. I make breakfast for 3 sleepy faces, kiss her goodbye, and send the kids off to school, after which I enjoy a quiet breakfast alone. I spent part of the morning thinking about the events of the weekend. I am still tormented by an alarming thought. Is my wife cheating on me? There is no evidence, but some inner feeling is gnawing at me. If this is true, then her passionate sex was not pleasure, but cruelty. Although I have a day off, Paul doesn't. He has a shift today. Around noon, Jen calls me, complaining about a clog in the sink and asking for help. Jen is tall and slender, with small breasts, but a very appetizing ass and long, thin legs. I have often noticed how men give her greedy glances, especially when she wears short shorts or a tight skirt. She has a very pretty face, short brown hair, and honey brown eyes. Jen is a true beauty, no doubt about it. I grab a small toolbox and go over to her to see what I can do. She greets me in a braless top and tiny denim shorts that show off her gorgeous curves. The blockage is really serious. The plunger doesn't help, so you have to crawl under the sink and disassemble the siphon. Jen gets down on one knee next to me too close. When she spreads her legs a little, I notice that she has no underwear under her shorts. Having pulled out a piece of fabric from the siphon, I realized that someone had stuffed my panties there. I put everything back together and stand up, but notice that Jen has moved so that I inevitably touch her body when I stand up. I immediately move away, but she hugs me, snuggling gratefully. "Thank you, Michael," she purrs, looking into his eyes. I take her by the shoulders and pull her away slightly. "Take it easy, Jen. Just thank you is enough." "What's the matter, Michael? Can't a girl properly thank a man for his help? Don't you find me attractive? Jen, you are very pretty. I think you know that yourself. But if we're going to hug, I'll feel safer if Paul and Lynn are nearby. Can I at least offer you coffee or beer? It's too early for beer, but coffee would be nice." She turns around behind the coffee pot so her perfect ass is right in front of my face. Then he leans towards me and pours the drink. He sits down next to him, smiling, and takes a sip. "Michael, I really appreciate your help. I'm so lucky to have you and Lynn as neighbors and friends." I smile and raise my cup in gratitude. Jen is so damn sexy. If I had fewer principles, I could have a great morning. Yes, such thoughts have already crossed my mind at garden parties. But if I still have any chance with Lynn, I won't do anything to ruin that. Besides, no matter how attractive Jen was, I always considered her a trap. A dangerous beauty, so to speak. I doubt her loyalty even more than Lynn. I am sure that she would happily accept my interest and jump into bed with me without hesitation. I take my last sip of coffee and say, "Yes, Jen, you and Paul are great friends, and you're a really good friend of Lynn's." She smiles at me, and in this smile, I read that she realizes that I will not give in to her games, and I feel relieved. Or maybe the problem is not Lynn, but Jen. It's a good thing I asked Jake to include her in the investigation. I should call him today and find out how soon he can provide a report. In other words, find out my fate. When I think about it, I remember that Jen has always been a bit of a flirt. When Paul and I switch wives for the dance at our house parties, Jen always slides her slender thigh between my legs, moves closer, and kisses me on the lips. Paul would be lucky if Lynn let him peck her on the cheek while keeping him at a respectful distance. Jen's hands always seem to end up on my shoulder or around my waist whenever she can, even in front of Paul. Jen backs off a little, and we have a nice conversation about everyday things. After pouring us both a second cup of coffee, she suddenly receives a call on her cell phone. After looking at the screen, she quickly presses the end call button several times to let the call go. She gets a strange look on her face, and after I finish my second cup, she seems determined to get rid of me. I get up to leave, she hugs me and kisses me on the cheek. Thank you again, Michael, for coming to my aid. It's so nice to have such a caring neighbor. No problem, Jen darling. Just let me know if you need anything else. I hand her the panties I pulled out of the drain filter. Here, I think these are yours. She takes them with a shy smile, her face flushing red. As I walk out the door, I hear Jen hurriedly pressing buttons on her phone and beginning to speak in a very low voice. She doesn't seem to be talking to Lynn or Paul. It's none of my business. I didn't think about it. At home, I call Lynn's office. Hi, honey. I just wanted to say I love you. Oh, Michael, you're so cute. You made my day, darling. I'm just about to go to a meeting with agents, so I need to run. Then she pauses for a moment and, lowering her voice, adds, Thank you, my love, and I love you too. Just as I finish talking to Lynn, the phone rings again. I recognize the number. It's my private detective, Jake. Hi, Mike. This is Jake. I have enough material to complete the report. Now I'm waiting for the photos to develop. If you want, we can meet in my office, say at 2. Will it fit? I'm still digesting the words about photographs, but I quickly come to my senses and answer. Yes, 2 hours will do. See you. I clean the house, collect toys and scattered things, mostly left by Adam. Jenny, as always, is neat. Then I put soup on the stove for lunch, thinking about photographs, photos of who and what. I know I'll drive myself crazy until I find out the truth. To distract myself, I leave Lynn a message in the office that I need to stop by work for an hour and ask her to pick up the kids from school. Then I get into the car, realizing that this trip could be the most important of my life, especially if there are photographs. I decide not to worry until there is a real reason to worry. I arrive at Jake's office, and he greets me at the door, leading me to the conference room where he usually discusses business with clients. He throws a folder on the table, from which photographs and a stack of documents peek out. With his hands folded in front of him, he looks at me and says, You can read the report and look at the photos if you want, but the bottom line is this. Your wife is not cheating on you. At least during the period while I was watching her. Oh God, I exclaim involuntarily, raising my hands as if a huge weight had been lifted from my shoulders. Another. This skinny brunette. She is cheating on her husband, and I tried several times to involve your wife in this, but Lynn refused. Moreover, she tried to dissuade her. Jake, you have no idea how glad I am. I've seen Lynn and Jen talk alone on more than one occasion, and every time I approach, they either end the conversation or abruptly change the subject. Paul, Jen's husband, acted as if there was something I was better off not knowing about, so my fears were not unfounded. I think my husband knows everything, but is in complete denial, Jake continues. The photo is mostly of Jen with a young man in a motel. Your wife is also in some pictures, but only as a friend trying to reason with her friend. What do you mean, trying to help a friend? When you all went to the club last week, both women disappeared along with the young guys they were dancing with. Jen was kissing her partner, and I got the impression that all 4 of them knew each other well. Another guy tried to hit on Lynn, but she pushed him away. Jake takes a sip of coffee and continues. As far as I understand, he already tried to hit on her before, and they may have had some kind of past. But that evening, she made it clear to him that she was not interested. He tried to grab her, but she hit him. Then he gave up and limped back to the club. Your wife told the other guy off, then grabbed Jen's hand and walked back into the club with her. Jake takes another sip of coffee then. Jean is cheating on her husband, and most of the report is about her. Phone calls, motels, credit card receipts, meetings with this guy, basically everything like that. There is almost no material on your wife. She went to work, had lunch with clients and colleagues, picked up her children from school, and returned home. But as I said, my report only covers a week. You spent a lot of time with your wife last weekend, so I focused on Jan. She met a young man at a local motel, and they spent 2 hours and 23 minutes together. They left separately. So what should I do with this information now? Should I tell Paul? Should I give him the report with all the photographs? I asked. You paid for this. It's your information, so do as you please. But think about how this will affect his marriage. I'm almost sure that he already knows, but he doesn't want to know. It's up to you. I stood up, buttoned my sports jacket, and looked at Jake. You will destroy all these materials, yes? Of course, Jake replied shortly. In the car, I dialed Lynn's number. She was in the office and answered in her usual sunny tone. Hi, Michael. What happened? Yes, I'm just thinking today that I have the most wonderful wife in the world. And tonight I will cook her dinner myself, put her children to bed, and then love her all night long. Oh, Michael, that's so sweet, honey. I'm looking forward to the evening. I have to go. See you at home. She hung up, and at the same moment her spare phone rang. Hello, it's Lynn. Does he know about us? Asked a familiar young voice. No, dear, Michael doesn't know anything. Lynn thought for a moment. How do you know I talked to Michael? I was just passing by your office. Tomorrow at the house? Asked a male voice. Yes, Tony. Tomorrow at the house on Larkin Avenue, she answered nervously. Lynn's heart was pounding, both from sexual excitement at the sound of her lover's voice and from the guilt of lying to Michael, her faithful husband and father of her children. She bit her lip, thinking, what the hell am I doing? Michael is such a wonderful man, a wonderful husband. But Tony is so big. Am I really willing to risk my family just for this? God, I love this feeling. He can give me something that Michael can't. I just can't resist. Lynn hid the spare phone in the bottom drawer of her desk, under a stack of papers, and leaned back in her chair. The locked office door meant no one could interrupt her. She thought about Tony. She could hardly wait until tomorrow to be in the house on Larkin Avenue, the same one she had put on the market, but had yet to find a buyer. The house was partially furnished to give potential buyers an idea of what it would look like when lived in. One of the bedrooms had a large bed and other furniture. She and Tony always washed their bedding thoroughly after meetings. Tony was young, about 28, married but without children, and possessed of impressive dignity. She wanted more and more. She also enjoyed spending time with Jan. She and Jan sometimes allowed themselves small experiments with each other. Lynn cleaned herself up as she prepared to leave work. Michael wants to make love tonight. He says that all night. You can blame it on the headache and just turn away. We must leave strength for Tony. Tony's wife must be over the moon every time he makes love to her. And then Lynn remembers Tony telling her that Betty wasn't interested in sex because she grew up in an ultra-religious family. Lynn felt guilty at the club when she pushed Tony away, but Jen told her about Michael's conversation with Paul, and Paul tells Jen everything. Otherwise, there will be no peace. And she noticed a tall man sitting alone and sipping a soda. Is it true? Must be a private investigator, most likely hired by Michael. You need to be careful. In fact, it was that night at the club that made her think that she was tired of Tony, that he was still an asshole. It was then that she began to realize how much she loved Michael. He is smart, considerate, and a first-rate father to Adam and Jenny. Michael is the man she wants to grow old with, raise her grandchildren, and enjoy life with. Tony is self-confident, but damn attractive. To be honest, perhaps the only thing Lynn really likes about him is sex. Someday she'll get enough of Tony, but right now she still needs him. Besides, if she could fool private investigator Michael once, she's sure she can do it again. Michael took the rest of the day off. He whistles to himself as he drives on his way to pick up flowers for Lynn. She'll probably stop by the house on Larkin, which is for sale, to make sure everything is in order, and Michael wants to get home in time to cook dinner for her and the kids. He bought small candles to create a romantic atmosphere for a night of love with his beautiful wife. He's happy. Jake is still in his office. He destroys copies of all the materials prepared for Michael, but leaves his copy on the table to be filed away later. While picking up his coffee mug, he accidentally touches Michael's file and the folder falls to the floor. This large African-American detective bends down to pick it up and notices something he hadn't seen before in one of the photographs scattered on the floor. He looks closely at the photograph and says to himself, "Crap, how did I miss this? It's a minor point, but a couple of photos taken outside the club now clearly show Lynn not only pushing away the tall, dark-haired man, but doing so in an overly intimate manner. This proves that she knows this guy, and he was supposed to just be a random dance partner at the club. Crap, Jake swears. He told Michael that he had no evidence of Lynn's infidelity, but is now beginning to suspect that he made a mistake. Crap, this bitch found out about me in the club, I bet, he mutters to himself, picking up papers and photos. We need to show this case to Janice. He is wondering what to do next. I'll call Michael and tell him that I'll review the case at a reduced rate and add my time for free. But let Janice watch Lynn. She's better at it than I am. Lynn doesn't know her, and this girl is much more inconspicuous than a thug like me. Michael texts Lynn that he will pick up the kids from school and help Adam with his homework. Jenny doesn't have any assignments in first grade yet, but Adam might have math. Well, they used to call it arithmetic, but now it's just mathematics. 10 minutes later, Lynn replies, "Thank you, darling." Tony comes home, and almost immediately another argument with Betty begins, about his constant absences, about his habit of turning off his phone for several hours during the day. "Tony, what are you doing that you need to turn off your phone? Do you have a fan again for that monster of yours? Who is she this time? Come on, Betty. Why do we discuss this again and again? If you don't like something, does that mean I'm definitely cheating on you?" Tony answers with irritation. "What's for dinner?" Jake calls his colleague. "Hey, baby, how are you? I have something for you. How busy are you now?" "Hello, big guy. Business, you say? Husband or wife?" This time, the cunning wife. "It was my business, but apparently I screwed up, and she saw through me. I think your beautiful ass will be more discreet, baby." "Oh, you sweet-tongued devil. You know that compliments will help you. In everything. I can take this case, but I'll have to move something up in the schedule. Come on tomorrow at 9. I'll come by and see what you have." 9 is great. "See you then, my love," Janice says with a flirtatious smile, which Jake, of course, cannot see on the phone, but perfectly detects in her voice. "Now you divide this number by this, and you get 6, understand, Adam? Look at the other examples, and I'll go cook dinner." Michael ruffles his son's hair and is about to leave the room. "Okay, Dad, what are we having for dinner?" "Ham steaks with potatoes in creamy cheese sauce." "Will it fit?" "Yummy, Dad. Mom loves it, right?" "Yes, baby," Michael laughs. He puts the ham in the oven along with a potato and cheese casserole, makes a salad, and steams the corn. Michael loves to cook, and he and Lynn have a great routine where they share the kids, the house, and the cooking. He thinks Lynn would be a complete fool if she decided to trade it all. They're doing so well. Adam is done with his homework, and Lynn returns home. A familiar aroma comes from the kitchen. "Ham and potato casserole, Michael? My favorite. You are my best, dear." She kissed him tenderly, then kissed Adam and Jenny, and then they all sat down to dinner. "So what's up with you and Lynn, Jen?" Paul asked his wife. "Nothing you need to worry about. Girls sometimes fight, but we are still friends." "Forget it, Paul," Jen answered, but Paul did not let up. "Are you sure you have to go out today? I was hoping we could just have a quiet evening together." "Who are you dating?" he asked. "I told you, Hillary and I have had this planned for weeks. I need to spend time with the girls, just like you need to spend time with your friends. And yes, I may be late, so don't wait for me. Girls, right? Paul clarified sarcastically. Yes, Paul. Girls, Jen answered sharply, ending the conversation. Paul decided not to continue. He already had less intimacy with his wife, and he didn't want to risk what was left, although I was sure that today she would meet someone else. Michael and Lynn put the children to bed, covered them with a blanket, and kissed them good night. Leaving Jenny's room, Lynn gently ran her hand over her husband's shoulder, glad that he worked so hard, but at the same time remained in great shape. In the hallway, Michael pulled her towards him and kissed her passionately. "Oh, Michael," Lynn whispered, then, almost inaudibly, she added, "Be with me tonight. Take a warm bath, dear, and I'll be waiting for you," Michael answered with a smile. When Lynn entered the bathroom, she didn't need to turn on the light. There were already candles burning around the edges of the bathroom and on the table. "Oh, Michael," she whispered, admiring his attention, but at the same time feeling slightly guilty. She slowly unbuttoned her blouse and took it off, then pulled off her underwear, running her palms over the skin. With slight trepidation, she ran her fingertips along the curves of her body, lingering on the most sensitive points. Sitting on the edge of the bathtub, she slowly pulled off her stockings as the water filled the bathtub with warm foam. Submerged in the water, she closed her eyes, enjoying the sensation. Warm water was relaxing, and light touches awakened special feelings in her. Meanwhile, Michael took a shower in another bathroom. He put on a light shirt and trousers and prepared a beautiful lace set for Lynn. When Lynn came out of the bathroom, drying her hair with a towel, she saw her husband's gift and smiled. "Oh, Michael, this is wonderful. I like it so much." She hugged him with a joyful laugh. "You know only bad girls do that," Michael teased her as he saw her fastening her stockings over her underwear. "Do you like bad girls?" she asked slyly. Michael couldn't hide his admiration as he looked at her. "Exactly," Lynn answered with a smile, taking a seductive pose. Michael prepared a romantic atmosphere in the bedroom, leaving only one candle flickering softly in the corner. A vase of red roses graced the table, and a single long flower lay on the bed, a special touch for a special night. Lynn sat down in the center of the bed, holding a rose in her hands, and beckoned her husband with her finger. Michael didn't have to wait long. After passionate sessions, Michael asks, "How are you, my love?" Michael looks at her. "Oh, Michael, I like it so much. Love is with you. You know how to use this little miracle of yours?" Lynn says, breathing heavily. "A small miracle? What do you mean small, dear?" "Oh, Michael, you know what I mean. That was, well, just a kind euphemism, Michael. Your size is great, honey, and I love it. I need it." "Damn, you need to be careful," Lynn thinks, trying to change the subject. "Good sex always whets your appetite. How are you, Michael?" Michael looks at her with a slight grin and a drop of sarcasm in his voice and says, "Well, actually, I'm the one who likes to snack after sex, Lynn, remember?" "Oh, I know that, Michael." "Damn, what is he up to? I'll have to stop making jokes like that, but I really adore him," she thinks. Since they made love in lace underwear, it became soaked with sweat, and she became hot. Lynn takes it off and puts on a short silk robe. Michael puts on a shirt and boxers. "You check on Jenny, and I'll see how Adam is doing," Michael says in a whisper. "Let's check them out together, Michael." They silently open the doors to the children's rooms, kiss the children on the cheeks, and carefully straighten the blankets discarded at night. "Well, at least I'm a good mother," Lynn thinks as she and Michael go down to the kitchen. Michael pours a glass of wine while Lynn toasts English muffins, spreads them with cream cheese, and tops them with a slice of tomato, their favorite post-sex snack. Lynn smiles and says, "Michael, you just blew me away today." She shudders slightly. "Do you see? I'm still shaking all over." "Well, at least my little thing is good for something, right?" Michael is slightly sarcastic. "Oh, Michael, don't tease me. You know how much I love you, and you know how to handle him, my dear." "Yes, I'm good, right?" Michael continues to joke. Lynn is silent for a second and then says softly, Michael, I just want to lie naked and cuddle with you today. I've had a rough day at work and I have a bit of a headache. Fine. Okay, honey. Take something to help you get a good night's sleep. Necessarily. Tuesday morning. At exactly 9 o'clock in the morning, Jake's office doorbell rings. He opens the door and Janice stands on her tiptoes to hug him. What happened, Jake, dear? She says to her old friend and occasional lover. Here, look at this dossier. Tell me what you think. Jake doesn't want to force an opinion on her, so he gives her the opportunity to make an honest verdict. Janice is a pretty woman with a good figure. A former cop, she knows how to stand up for herself. She is smart and a good private detective. After carefully examining the contents of the folder, looking at photographs through a magnifying glass and analyzing schedules and journals, she looks up at Jake. This tall, thin woman is cheating on her husband. Yes, I know that, baby, but so does this cutie Jake. I'll keep her under surveillance this morning and see what she's up to. I will use Antoine as cover. We will take turns watching her. He's the best in this business. Yes, I told the client that she was not cheating, but I had little time to check. Plus, this babe noticed me at the club when they were meeting those two guys from the photos, so I think she's become more careful. She's smart, Janice, be careful. I'm smart too, Jake, darling. And I'm always careful. If she gets dirty, we'll give her a good squeeze. Antoine might be able to get closer. He has a Pentax K5 with a fast lens, no shutter sound, no flash. And I have a parabolic microphone that can pick up a mouse fart from 200 meters away. We will hear everything. Oh, I love it when you talk dirty, honey. Jake laughs. Okay, if we can lower the rate a little, I will share part of the client's fee with you and additionally pay for your time and expenses. Janice smiles, pinches him lightly on the cheek, gives him a friendly slap, and says, We'll figure something out, honey. Let's have a weekend after the case, and you'll thank me properly, big guy. No problem, baby. So we agreed. Janice laughs, slaps herself on the ass, and, picking up the folder, heads towards the door. See you later, Jake. Jan returned home around 4:30 in the morning after a night out. Paul noticed this, but pretended to be asleep as she slid into bed smelling like sex. He gets up early to avoid talking to her about the night before. Jan is a good mother. She looks after the house, but he has known for a long time that she is cheating on him. He also knows that Lynn is cheating on Michael. But if he ever talked about it, Jan would skin him. Paul packs the kids' lunches, helps them get ready, and drives them to school on his way to work. Left alone in the car, he begins to reflect on his life. He's a good man and a good provider, but he's just not one for conflict and puts up with a lot more than he should, especially from Jan. He admires Michael because he doesn't let people walk all over him, either at work or in bars. Michael knows how to stand up for himself and for Paul too. Tony, I need you to pick me up from the market at 2:30, so please keep your phone on so I can call you. This is becoming a real headache. I don't know where I'll be at this time, so here's some money for a taxi. Tony hands Betty a $100 bill and then adds another one. Here, buy yourself something nice. Okay, honey, I have to go. He gives Betty a quick kiss on the cheek, glances in the entrance mirror to check how he looks, and heads out to work. I can't wait to be with Lynn again. Damn, she's amazing, and her husband is a total loser. What the hell is a Marine? Tony himself has never served and has contempt for those who have served. He thinks about this while he drives, and at the next traffic light, he lowers his visor and looks appreciatively at his smile in the mirror. Janice and Antoine wait outside Lynn's office before she radios him to make sure he's ready. Are you ready, doll? She says quietly into the microphone. Ready to go, sweetie. His velvety baritone is heard in response, and she smiles. Let's make everything clean, honey. I owe Jake a lot, and this will help him get out of trouble. Accepted, Antoine answers. Attention, Antoine, she's coming. Little blonde with a cute haircut. I see. Antoine watches as Lynn gets out of the car and heads towards the office. He presses the radio button. Little fox, just adorable. Yes, and she got completely dirty. Stay alert, honey. Janice answers. Lynn walks into the office with thoughts racing through her head. Why the hell did I even get myself into this, just because he's big? Today I'll tell him that I'm quitting. I shouldn't have gotten into this. I love Michael, and without him, I would definitely be lost. If he hasn't figured anything out yet, even with the idiot he hired to watch me, then I have to end this before he finds out. She quickly goes to her office in the brokerage office. And I'll tell Jen that I'm not going anywhere with her anymore. If she wants to continue making a fool of Paul, that's her business, and I don't want to hide anymore. Reaching her desk, she remembers how it all started. I wish I had never danced with Tony at that party at the agency. I just had too much then, I guess. If only Michael could have been with me. He then went to his sister, and I went alone. Well, how did it end? I ended up with this idiot in a motel. Damn, it was so damn nice. But I have to pull myself together and stop all this at home today. At that moment, her spare phone begins to vibrate in the bottom drawer of her desk. She takes it out and opens it. Hello, Lynn? Hello, baby. Are we still meeting at my place today? Tony's voice is heard. Yes, but we need to talk, Tony. Let's meet at 1:30. I'll have to pick Betty up early, so what about noon? This bitch is already sick of me, says Tony. Okay, at noon, Lynn answers and abruptly slams the phone, ending the conversation. Michael let Lynn drop the kids off at school on the way to the office today because he has work planned around the house and wants to start early. Jan doesn't work, and when later in the morning she notices Michael stripping to the waist while sunbathing, she begins to watch him. She's wearing a swimsuit, wondering if she should sunbathe too. When she sees him entering the house, she takes the phone and dials his number. Hello, it's Mike. Hey, Michael, I'm having trouble with the bathroom pipe again. Can you take a look? This pipe again? You always have problems with them, dear. Okay, I'll be at your place in 10 minutes. Make me a sandwich and open a beer and consider that we're even. Fine. Okay, Michael, hurry up before the water spills on the carpet in the bedroom. This is the bathroom off the master bedroom. She hangs up and begins to think about how to break Michael's resistance. She changes into the shortest, tightest shorts she owns and a crop top that barely covers her small breasts. Jan knows very well the impression her fit figure makes on men. Michael puts on an old t-shirt and goes to the neighbors. The doorbell rings and Jan answers, pecking Michael on the cheek as he enters. Thanks for coming, Michael. You are simply a savior. Michael smiles nervously when she mentions her butt in conversation. Well, she's wonderful, so she's definitely worth saving. Jen, honey, he teases. She blushes. Jen is proud of her toned figure, and with good reason. She literally stopped traffic on the street with her delicious ass. All the guys in the area dream of touching her elastic buttocks. Okay, Jen, lead the way, Michael says, picking up a toolbox. She giggles slightly. Michael follows Jen up the stairs, and she, knowing he's watching, rocks her hips a little more than usual. He notices. Right here, Michael. Michael sets down the toolbox, and Jen sits on the edge of the tub, so she can be close by while he works. He takes out a large adjustable wrench and unscrews the bottom of the siphon. Inside, he discovers Jen's bikini panties stuck. So how did they get there? Jen asks with feigned surprise. You clearly have a problem with your panties disappearing down the drain, honey. Oh, I understand what's the matter, Michael, she says. I put them on the edge of the sink after I take them off, and then they must fall in there. Well, that's also an option. Michael agrees, playing along with her. In fact, he enjoys her flirty games. It helps brighten up the day a little while he's busy renovating the house, and he can once again admire her legendary forms. Of course, he's not going to give in to her, but that doesn't stop Jen from trying to seduce him again and again. They stand up at the same time, finding themselves almost in each other's arms in the cramped bathroom. Jen's warm body presses against his, and she dares him to steal a kiss. Michael answers automatically, but then pulls himself together. His heart beats faster as he goes downstairs. In the kitchen, Jen prepares a sandwich for Michael and gets him a cold beer, then grabs a can for herself too. I don't even know how to thank you, Michael. These were my favorite panties, and since I didn't find them this morning, now I'm wearing nothing at all, she says with a sly smile. She sits next to him at the kitchen table and chats, enjoying their break. Michael doesn't really listen, but he enjoys just being around her. Jen is a real beauty. Tall, slender, with soft blonde hair pulled back into a messy bun. She has gorgeous breasts, a narrow waist, long, graceful legs, and of course, an incredibly appetizing ass. Michael involuntarily follows the movement of her breasts as she gestures. He's taking a bite of a ham and Swiss cheese sandwich when he notices Jen saying something about maybe being bitten by a spider. Michael, will you take a look? I think I left a mark, she says. He's brought out of his thoughts when she stands up, unzips her shorts, and slides them down her hips and legs. Jen turns around and shows off the bite, actually a tiny wound that she herself caused with a needle. Michael plays by her rules. Maybe a spider, he says, but it's okay, you'll survive, dear. Jen looks disappointed. Michael gets up, kisses her on the cheek, takes the toolbox, and, heading towards the exit, says, "Put on your shorts, Jen. Thanks for the sandwich and beer." She follows him, still not dressed. "Come on, Michael. Come quickly, no one will know. I see that you want me." Michael turns around, takes her by the shoulders, and, looking into her eyes, says, "Jen, you are an amazing woman. Anyone who can have you will be damn happy. Paul, Lynn, and I are good friends, and yes, everyone flirted a little over a glass of wine, but you know I'm loyal to Lynn. I love her and would never betray her or the children." Jen looks down, frowning. He kisses her forehead and adds, "You've seen me unclog your drain twice already, and I know Paul has a wrench. So if your panties mysteriously end up down the drain again, you know what to do, honey." Then he smiles and continues, "Let's have a barbecue this weekend. Lynn will contact you." She doesn't say anything as Michael returns home, straight to the kitchen, and pours himself a shot of 12-year-old scotch. He drinks it in one gulp and simply says, "Ugh," he shudders, thinking about this magnificently sexy woman he just rejected. Throwing Jen on the table is not pleasant morning entertainment. He knows she's right. No one would ever know. He goes outside to finish work and hears a distinct hum coming from Jen and Paul's bedroom. Looks like she figured it out on her own. Michael chuckles to himself. Lynn left the office shortly after 11:30 so she could arrive before Tony. Janice presses a button on the headset to alert Antoine that they have begun. "I'll cut through Mason, stay behind her, and I'll intercept her at Maple." "Got it, darling." Antoine moved, and Janice turned onto a parallel street and followed the target on the other side. This is a standard scheme that he and Antoine perfected by working together. Antoine is a handsome dark man with smoothly combed black hair gathered into a small ponytail. Janice isn't dating him. She has her eye on Jake. She likes big guys. She was happy when Jake called her to help. After this case, they will spend the weekend together, making only short breaks to take her out for dinner. Jake was an excellent private detective in his youth, but now he has become too big, too noticeable, and has been exposed several times. Janice and Antoine work so well together that it is almost impossible to detect them. They see Lynn heading to a house for sale in a residential area. Janice parks around the corner, out of sight, and Antoine approaches from the back. Antoine likes that this is a house and not a motel room. It will be easier and quieter to get there. He checks his Pentax and a small silent recorder. Janice sets up the parabolic and directional microphones, connecting them to the recordings. With Antoine's pictures and audio recordings, they will have everything they need. Tony pulls up to the house at exactly noon, and Janice takes a few photos of him entering the house to add to Lynn's photos. Lynn removes the combination safe from the doorknob and replaces it with a sign in the window. "Call for an appointment," with a phone number provided. She left her car in an inconspicuous place a block away. Janice takes dozens of photographs of her actions and says to herself, "This little girl is not so simple. But this guy is a complete idiot. parked right in front of the house with his stupid, easily recognizable car. I wonder what she saw in him. "Tony, move your car a little further down the street, dumbass," says Lynn. "It's okay, I'm a realtor, remember? This is a house for sale, so I'm in the right place. Don't worry, move it, Tony. I'll wait." He mutters something under his breath, gets into the car, and drives a little further. Janice takes a dozen pictures, capturing the moment, all with date and time. Exactly, it's a matter of size. There's simply no other explanation for why this smart little girl is with this idiot, she mutters, then presses the headset. "Antoine, honey, give me a couple of good shots of this guy." "I'll do it. It's almost inside, so don't contact me anymore." "Got it, dear." When Tony returns, Lynn says, "Well, are you satisfied now?" He comes up to her, hugs her, and starts kissing her. She pulls away. "We need to talk, Tony. I can't do this anymore. We're taking too many risks. I think Michael was already following me through the detective last week, so we need to stop this. We can't just end it like that. Lynn, I love you, but I haven't had anything with Betty for a long time. She's afraid of my size. Tony, I love Michael and the children. I don't want to lose them. We've come too far, and this has to end. Well, at least for the last time. I don't think that's a good idea. It's better to cut it all off at once." Tony unzips his pants. "Tell me you don't like it, honey." "Tony, you know I love this." "No, we can't do this. Baby, just this once. This won't change anything, but tomorrow you can become righteous again. You want it. Come on." Lynn hesitates for a few seconds, rolling her eyes. "Okay, just this once, that's all. No more risk, Tony. I can't stand it." Janice carefully monitors the recordings in her headphones, checking the sound quality. Antoine takes the perfect shot. Lynn and Tony go up to the master bedroom, and Antoine records everything on his silent professional camera. After Tony leaves, Lynn finishes the cleaning, washes the bed linen, and puts everything in order. She closes the house in which they met and returns the key, thus ending this phase of her life. Lynn mutters to herself as she cleans up. "This is the last time I do this. I love Michael, and he is a good husband. I'll be a good girl and make love to him every night I can for the rest of my life. So help me God." She leaves the house and walks a block and a half to her car, and Janice records the whole thing. Antoine had long since left, taking the recording of the incredible episode. Janice waits until Lynn drives away and is completely out of sight. Then he picks up the radio and Antoine answers. "Yes, what? I'll track where she goes, just to complete the file. Do you want to back me up? And then you will need to upload and sort the photos. Jake will want to watch them first thing in the morning, so he can call the director right away." "Okay, baby, let's go." "She's already moving," Antoine says. "Accepted," Janice answers. Lynn returns to the office, immediately pulls a burner phone out of her desk drawer, walks out to the back of the building, and throws it in the dumpster. Antoine watches this, and as soon as Lynn leaves, he takes the phone out of the trash. As Lynn passes the reception desk, she hears Cheryl calling out to her. "Oh, hi, Lynn. Michael called. I think it's something about taking Adam and Jenny." "Thank you, Cheryl. I'll call him back." She picks up the phone in her office. "Hey, Michael, what's wrong, honey? Cheryl said you called." "Hello, honey. I just wanted to know if you could pick up the kids from school. Otherwise, I'll go myself, but I'd like to finish the garden while I still have time." "Of course, Michael, I'll take them," Lynn replies cheerfully. "Where have you been? I couldn't reach you on your mobile." "Oh, sorry, honey. I left it in the car. I was at the Larkins' house, meeting with a contractor there. They were just laying pipes." After these words, her heart skips a beat for a moment, realizing the unintentional sexual implications. "Crap. Lynn, are you completely stupid?" She scolds herself mentally. "Yes, someone really was laying pipes today, but definitely not a contractor. Oh, I see. Okay, honey, see you at home. By the way, Jen called. Someone dropped a couple down the drain again. Oh, this little minx." And then, with a playful note in his voice, "I hope you behaved well, Michael James Anderson." Always, Michael. Yes. Thank you for last night, dear. I felt a pleasant tingling all day after your love. Will there be a repeat today? You can rest assured, baby. My sweet body is completely yours. Michael. Bye, darling. She giggles, feeling like a naughty schoolgirl. See you, Michael says and hangs up. Lynn hangs up and tears well up in her eyes. She locks the office door, puts her head in her hands, and sobs bitterly. If I lose Michael, I won't survive it. Lord, don't let anything go wrong. I'm done with Tony and everyone else. I will become the most loving wife in the world, I swear to you. She leaves the office to pick up the kids from school, looking forward to seeing Michael. On the way, she stops at the pharmacy for a popular fragrant intimate hygiene product in order to be clean and fresh for Michael and finally get rid of Tony. Michael finishes planting in the garden and is in the kitchen when Adam and Jenny run out of the car and rush into his arms. Adam grabs him tightly by the leg as Michael lifts Jenny, who bursts into ringing childish laughter. Lynn enters the house. Is this a private party, or can I join too? Michael puts the children on the floor, and they run to their rooms. Lynn hugs her husband, lifts her face, and kisses him passionately, her eyes still sparkling a little. Let's have a special evening tonight, Michael. Like yesterday. Of course, baby, just you and me, after we put the kids to bed. Janice returns to Jake's office after spying on Lynn, while Antoine assigns another operative to keep an eye on her in case she leaves the house. Then he goes to his room to process the photos. He simply downloads them onto his laptop and arranges them in a convenient order for his morning report to Jake. She enters the office and plops down in a chair. Well, dear, it seems the director will not have the best day tomorrow. Crap. Okay, get all the details, get the photos from Antoine, and I'll make an appointment with Michael Anderson for tomorrow. Crap. If it's any consolation, the subject has severed ties with this guy. At least that's what she said. Although I couldn't resist the last call, apparently. I'll have everything ready by 8 in the morning. Now, how about we treat the tired girl to dinner, big guy? Janice winked. Okay, just let me get my coat, Jake replied. Paul enters the house and Janice throws herself into his arms, kissing him passionately. Paul kisses back, not wondering where her passion comes from, but simply accepting what she willingly gives. Paul, dear, I had a hard day today. I really need your warmth. Let's wake up the kids early tomorrow so we can have some personal time. Okay, darling. Paul looks at her with suspicion, but tries to hide it. Okay, honey, sounds tempting. Let's take a bottle of wine with us and have a little party. Ooh, this is my man, Janice purrs. Her body is still on fire from her visit to Michael, and she urgently needs to unwind. Since Michael is unavailable, Paul will do just fine. Michael and Lynn put the children to bed, filling their evening with love and care. Michael then turns to his wife. Are you still my date today, honey? Oh, of course, my lord. I would love to go on a date with you, she replies, making a playful curtsy. If you want to relax a little after a hard day, I'll open a bottle of wine and turn on some music. Great, dear. Lynn kisses her husband and goes upstairs to retire for a few minutes in the large oval bathtub. She came downstairs in a beautiful summer dress and hugged Michael as he poured her a glass of Chardonnay. She took a thorough bath. She had never felt cleaner and fresher. She was happy, feeling cleansed of her misdeeds and sins before Michael, and now she came to him fresh. Michael put on some soft classical music, but Lynn smiled, slowly shook her head, and changed it to a soft pop album so she could dance with her husband. Michael laughed and nodded in approval. He took her glass of wine from her hand, placed it on the table, and hugged his beautiful petite wife to him, spinning her around in a dance. She placed her hands on his chest and buried her head between them. He hugged her fragile body, gently massaging her back with his hands. She looked at him with tears in her eyes. He asked quietly, "What happened, Angel?" She sobbed slightly and whispered almost inaudibly, "Nothing, Michael. I'm just happy to be in the arms of the man I love." Then she looked again into his eyes, which also sparkled with moisture, and added, "I love you, Michael. Michael was so shocked that he didn't know what to say and simply whispered, I love you too, my dear girl, more than you will ever know. I don't want this dance to end, Michael. Can we stay like this forever? I would like to, Lynn dear, but I think the children may not be happy. She laughed quietly and lightly hit herself on the chest with her fist. Stop it, Michael. Don't make me laugh today. I just want you to hold me, and I want to cry if I feel like it. I want to love you tenderly all night, Michael. All night long. Thank you, Michael dear. I love you so much. They fell asleep, hugging each other, and woke up early in the morning in the same position. Jake arrived at the office early to collect the materials Janice and Antoine had prepared for the case of Michael and Lynn Anderson. When the doorbell rang, Jake lazily walked to the door to let in Janice and Antoine, who arrived promptly at 8 in the morning. Janice is always punctual. She is always where she needs to be and always on time. Good morning, guys. Come in, sit down. Well, what do you have for me? Jake, honey, we caught this little girl red-handed, and in the language of our profession, we covered her ass, Janice announced proudly. I met with Antoine at 7 this morning to review the materials. Turning to her partner, she added, Antoine, show him the photographs. Antoine cleared his throat. Yep, Jake, I have simply masterpieces. This one, for example. Janice insisted that I make her an enlarged copy and frame it. This guy here, well, he's impressive, right? Jake's eyes widened as he looked through the photos printed on photo paper from Antoine's computer. Damn it, you really caught her cute little ass. It looks like I'll have to go to Michael Anderson to confess, and the sooner the better. Give me the transcripts of the recordings. Yes, these. I like all these sounds. We did a thorough job, my dear. Janice says proudly with a sweet smile. Okay, let me figure out all this. Crap. Antoine, thank you, man. You're a real artist. Jake says gratefully to his talented colleague. Having finished his part of the work, Antoine stood up, shook Jake's hand, kissed Janice on the cheek, and, leaving, said, You're welcome, Jake. Then, turning to Janice, he added, See you later, baby. After Antoine left, Jake turned to his beloved business partner. I'm hungry, let me buy you breakfast, baby. Take films, this player with headphones, photographs, and so on. We will review everything and discuss how to present this to the director. Here he goes, honey, went. Michael woke up, and after pulling on his jeans, Michael checked on the kids. They were still sleeping. It was early. He took off his jeans again and dragged Lynn into the shower. The last day of his day off was starting out in the best possible way because tomorrow he had to return to his shift. He was truly happy. Lynn, of course, had to get to work, so she got dressed, woke Adam and Jenny up, and dressed her while Michael cooked breakfast and packed 3 lunches, including one for Lynn. In her package, he put a red rose, a sandwich, yogurt, and a pear. Only the best for my beautiful wife, he thought, lovingly preparing her lunch. Lynn left with the children, finally giving her husband a tender, passionate kiss. Bye, darling, I love you, she said with feeling, walking Adam and Jenny to the car. Michael was left alone, sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee. He smiled, thinking about how well things were going between him and Lynn lately, and how stupid his fears about her cheating now seemed. One day left, got some yard work to do, change the valve seat in the upstairs sink, and then maybe play a little golf. 9 holes will fit right into my day before picking up the kids from school. Around 9 in the morning, the phone rang. It was Jen. Hey, Michael, can I stop by and get us some cream or milk? We're out of stock, but I need it for coffee. Come, I'll make you a cup, just the way you like, Michael suggested. Oh, Michael, darling, you are my savior. I just need coffee in the morning, she exclaimed. She appeared almost immediately after the call, wearing a tight blouse, short skirt, and sneakers. Michael made her coffee with 2 spoons of sugar and cream, just the way she likes it, and they began a leisurely conversation. In fact, her visit was more out of boredom than anything more intimate. She and Michael often had morning coffee together when he was home. It was just a friendly habit, and he was not afraid that she would have to fight him off. Around 9:30, the phone rang again. "Mike's on the phone," he answered. "Mike, this is Jake Stroughton, private investigator. Could you come to my office this morning?" Michael seemed to be doused with cold water. He thought the case with Jake was already closed. A million thoughts raced through his head. His heart beat faster. Yeah, how about 11? 11 is great, Mike. We will meet with another colleague of mine. See you." Michael was puzzled. Jen was nearby, and he didn't want her to suspect anything. "Everything is fine?" she asked. "Yes. It's just a meeting that I forgot about. I was reminded." "Then I guess it's time." No, take your time, honey. Let me pour you some more coffee." He didn't want to disturb her. While Jen talked incessantly, Michael was lost in thought. What the hell? What else could he find out about Lynn? Anything new? Finally, Jen finished another story and asked him a question. "You think so, Michael?" He smiled, took her hands in his, and said, "Jen, honey, I'm sorry, but I'm a little distracted today. I need to get ready for the meeting. Let me pour some cream into your container." "Thank you, Michael, honey. You're so thoughtful. I hope it's nothing serious." No, it's okay. Regular meeting." He walked her to the door, had a little final chat, and before leaving, she secretly pecked him on the lips. Michael watched her leave before closing the door. Then he poured himself more coffee, but this time he added a little scotch. He was sure that the news did not bode well. The image of Lynn and Jen disappearing into the club last week came back to his mind. He knew Jake was there. Did that mean he found something new? To distract himself, Michael went to the garden and did simple, effortless work. At 10:20, he showered, changed, and went to Jake's. At exactly 11, he entered the office, where Jake and Janice were already waiting for him. Jake introduced Janice to him and explained why he had let her study the materials on his case and keep an eye on Lynn yesterday. Then he went on to talk about the materials he had collected. "Mike, I'll leave you alone with all this material. There are photographs, recordings, transcripts, and a call log from the burner phone that Lynn threw away yesterday. Please check this out. You can use this room for privacy. Janice and I will be there when you're ready to answer any questions you have," Jake carefully explained to Michael. Not knowing what to think, he simply said, "Yes, give me some time to sort this all out. Thank you." He saw photos of the same guy who had danced with Lynn last week at the club. He heard his wife call the other man sweetheart. He didn't know how to react to all this, but he heard himself muttering, "This fucking bitch." This happened after she told him that she still felt a pleasant, tingling sensation from their intimacy last night. She went from the special romantic evening Michael had arranged for her to sweaty sex on the sheets in the Larkin house with that creep. And to top it all off, she was wearing the same sexy lace lingerie he bought her. His supposedly loving wife threw away her marriage and family for fleeting pleasure. He heard this guy talk about other women. He slept with women Michael knew, Lynn's friends from work. He was sure to share this information with Matt and Gary, Angela's husband, whom everyone called Big. Michael's whole world collapsed in an instant. Slowly leaving the office, he walked towards Jake and Janice to hear their opinion. Janice was the first to speak, as she had witnessed what was happening yesterday. "Michael, you can't let her get away with this. She did it on purpose. She knew she was being mean, but she did it anyway. Yes, she was going to break up with this bastard, but in the end, she decided that one more time was more important than anything else. You'd be a complete idiot if you didn't destroy that bitch for something like that." Jake tried to soften Janice's harsh words by saying, "Michael, we have a copy of all this material for you, and perhaps you should discuss this with an attorney or trusted friend before taking any steps. Of course, you will feel bad sharing what your wife did, but I advise you to take at least a day to process everything. This is just my advice. Sorry I didn't notice this sooner, but Janice and I will cover any additional costs. I'm really sorry, buddy." Michael listened, but everything happened as if in a vacuum. In an echo chamber, everything seemed unreal. He was so damn embarrassed that he wanted to leave Jake's office as quickly as possible, taking his copy of the materials so he could think about everything alone. He was in complete shock from what he saw and could not yet digest it. His mind was almost blank as he drove home. Arriving home, he went straight to the bottle of 12-year-old single malt whiskey, poured himself 2 or 3 ounces without ice, and drained the glass in one gulp. Then he began to think about what to do next. He quickly decided that Lynn could no longer live with him. He took a few of her things out of her closet and drawers and casually tossed them into the suitcase. He also packed small bags for the children and himself for a few days. He called his mother. "Hi, Mom. I need to ask you to take the children for a few days. Lynn has been caught having sex with another man, and I want her to stay away from the house and the children until I decide what to do next." Of course, Adam and Jenny are always welcome here. You know that, dear. Just please try to work things out with Lynn. Listen to her side first. Michael's mother was an intelligent, educated woman. She always reasoned sensibly and without unnecessary emotions. He could be completely honest with her and expected just such an answer. "Thank you, Mom. I'll call you tomorrow." "Okay, Michael, I love you," the mother said with a hint of anxiety in her voice. He then called Lynn at work. When she answered in her usual friendly tone, he said, "Lynn, just listen and don't say anything. There will be a suitcase in front of the door of the house. Take him and find yourself a motel for a few days. Don't go into the house. There will be no one there when you arrive. Wait for my call to discuss what to do next." The only thing Lynn managed to say before Michael hung up was, "Michael, what?" She called back immediately, but he did not answer. She started leaving a message. "Michael, what's going on? Please call me back." But he turned off the answering machine and unplugged the cord. The next call was from Jen on her cell phone. He ignored him, and soon a voice message arrived. "Michael, what's going on? Lynn called me. She was in tears, in complete despair. Maybe I can help with something? Please call me back right away, Michael. Call me back." He called the school, asked to pick up the children early, citing a family emergency, and said they would not be at school for several days. He wanted to leave before Lynn could beg him. He also planned to keep the children away from their mother until he tried to completely terminate her parental rights. He believed that since she had made her choice, she now had to live with it. Michael was angry, damn angry. He grabbed a vase from the table, swung it, and threw it forcefully into the wall. "Bitch." Having calmed down a little, he went to pick up Adam and Jenny from school. He told the children, "Mom is gone for a while, and I want to take you on a little vacation. How about staying in a nice hotel? There is a great pool there, and we can order any food directly to our room." The children's reaction was predictable. "Yes, hooray. Dad, will Mom come with us too?" "No. Mom will be gone for a few days, so today I'm giving my kids a treat, and tomorrow I'm taking them to Grandma Anderson. Sounds fun?" "Yes," Adam shouted, clenching his small fists in the air. "Yes, Dad, Grandma is so kind," said my calm and reasonable little Jenny. He already had a bag ready for each of them, and, as he said, no one was home when Lynn arrived half an hour after Michael called. She canceled everything she was doing and hurried home as quickly as traffic allowed. Finding no one in the house, Lynn ran to a neighbor, Jen's house. "Jen, what the hell is going on? Do you know anything?" "No, I had coffee with Michael this morning at your house. Michael and I often have coffee together. You know, then someone called him, but I couldn't find out who. He said it was some kind of meeting and literally pushed me out the door. Damn it, Jen. It's because of Tony, right? He somehow found out. Maybe this stupid private detective was on to something after all. I told you I saw him at that club where Tony and Henry danced with us. That's why I pulled away from Tony, and based on Michael's behavior later, I decided that everything had turned out okay." Lynn was breathing heavily and simply had to sit down. Jen brought her a cup of coffee. "Pour me some bourbon, Jen. Crap. The detective probably followed me to the Larkin house. I was sure I was watching the situation through the back window. I didn't see anyone. I'm sure of it. I thought you were going to break up with him yesterday. Then they couldn't see anything serious. Oh, Jen, I slept with him yesterday. I wasn't going to, but he persuaded me for the last time. Crap, what a fool I am. Lynn was even more shocked and was breathing heavily. I ruined my marriage, Jen. He will never let me see the children. Oh, you don't know that, Lynn. I know. When we met, he said that he would never forgive betrayal in any form. He said that if a woman ever cheated on him, he would just walk away and never look back. Jen, that's what he's doing now. Lynn sobbed openly. Oh, Jen, what should I do? Damn, honey, I slept with Tony too before he brought Henry. If Paul finds out, he might not be as understanding as he used to be. He suspected something, but didn't know for sure, and it seemed like he didn't want to know. Jen fell silent, and an even more disturbing thought flashed through her head. Lynn, if Paul kicks me out, I'll have to look for a job. And a cute ass is not a profession, dear. Well, for now, I'm going to respect Michael's wishes and find myself a motel for a few days. Or maybe a nice hotel. I can afford it. But I need more things than he collected for me. Will you help me pack my suitcase? Of course, honey, went. Jen and Lynn packed another large suitcase, after which Lynn kissed her friend goodbye and headed to the hotel. Once there, she ordered a late lunch to her room. She also called her father, who was already retired, and as soon as she heard his voice, she burst into tears. Dad, I ruined everything again. Michael and the children left me. Can you come to my place? You're the only one I can talk to, Daddy. Please. He agreed to meet his daughter at the hotel. She thanked him, hung up, and, covering her face with her hands, began to sob. Jen returned home and began to think. Crap, I better stop having sex with Henry. If they went after Lynn so quickly, I can't expect Paul to be more lenient than Michael. Crap. Michael watched Adam and Jenny splash around in the hotel pool and tried to figure out his next steps. He must meet with a lawyer before speaking to Lynn. He doesn't have his own lawyer, but his fraternity brother practices tax law, and he'll call him later to ask for a recommendation. Tomorrow morning, he would need to withdraw money from their joint account and open a new account in his name only. He called his boss and asked for the rest of the week off. As he watched his children play, he thought about how to protect them from the impending pain. He's done with Lynn. She crossed the line from which there was no turning back for him, although she continued to pretend to be a loving wife. It would be hard because he loved her. He liked the way they managed the house together, shared responsibilities, adjusted their work schedules, and took care of the children. But he made the decision to divorce as soon as he saw the first photo that morning. Now he urgently needs a good lawyer. Most likely, Lynn is also already looking for a lawyer. He guessed that she most likely called her father. She always turned to Bill for advice. They were very close, and of course he would tell her something reasonable. She will be able to afford to hire a strong lawyer. Later, as the children sat peacefully watching TV, Michael called his friend, a tax lawyer. He explained the situation to Chet. Mike, I'm so sorry. I remember Lynn from your wedding. She was a real beauty. Yes, and she's also a lying, cheating bitch. And for me, it's over, Michael answered sharply. Okay, listen, I have one friend from law school. The first in academic performance in our class. In my opinion, he went to family law, to his father's firm. It will be expensive, but it is the best. If you want to destroy her, this guy is your guillotine man. Give me some time, I'll try to contact him. He owes me something, so I'll try to fit you in with him in the morning. Thank you, Chet. Now I'm your debtor. Come on, Mike, just take me out to racquetball, buy me lunch, and we're even, brother. You are the best. It's coming. Just come with a fighting spirit. You'll need it. They both laughed. Lynn opened the hotel room door to find her tall father standing in front of her. Without saying a word, she rushed to him, hugged him, and kissed him on the cheek. Thank you, Daddy. I need you so much right now. I'm completely lost. Linny, honey, when have you not needed me during one of your crises? You said that you messed up, but I remember that all your mistakes were big. You never did anything halfway, darling. So let's sit down and you can tell me everything. Oh, Dad, I'm so ashamed. I caught Michael cheating with another man. He caught me right in the middle of sex, Dad. Apparently, he suspected something, and his private detective recorded everything. Well, at least I think so. Michael is not talking to me now, but the children are with him. Bill clenched his jaw, preparing to answer his daughter. Lynn, why the hell are you cheating on Mike? He's the best guy you've ever dated. And honey, you've dated some real assholes. Michael deserves my respect, and you know I don't just give it away. He's a hard worker, he's a wonderful father, and he loves you. I know he loves you, honey. Yes, love Michael too, but I'm just fixated on one guy. I, I was drawn to him, and I guess it just happened. This has nothing to do with what you lack in bed, right? Michael looks like a real athlete. He beats me at racquetball all the time. No, Michael is an amazing lover. I just started to think that because of work, children, and everything else, I was missing out on something. I didn't want this to happen, Dad. It just happened that way. I know how stupid this sounds. Okay, you know what I think about this, so let's discuss what to do next. First, you need a lawyer, a good one. Michael is no fool and will probably hire a strong lawyer. He might decide to freeze the joint accounts, so you need to get ahead of him. Dad, I have an escrow transaction tomorrow morning. It will take an hour or two. After that, I can go to the bank. Should I take it all off or just half? My lawyer will call you tomorrow, probably around noon. Make an appointment with her as soon as possible. Her name is Karen. But talk to her first, and only then go to the bank. Now let me feed you, dear, and you will tell me everything I don't know yet. I ordered room service, Dad. Ugh, cancel the order. We'll have dinner somewhere in a restaurant. I don't want you sitting in this dull hotel room. Don't worry, honey, we'll figure it out. Lynn put her arm around her father's neck. Oh, Dad, I love you so much. Michael was tired, but ordered a movie and pizza for the children to be delivered to their room. Kids love pizza. Adam found ice cream on the menu and Michael said, "Okay, order, dear, for yourself and Jenny." Jenny asked, "Can we call Mom?" "Maybe later, honey. You'll see her soon." Michael's phone rang. It was Chet. "Hello, Mike. I contacted my friend. He can see you tomorrow at 9 in the morning. Everything is ready. Fits. His name is Michael too, but we always called him Mick, so it will be easier for you." "Great. Thanks, Chet. I'll take the children to Grandma in the morning, and Mom will look after them. I'll stay with her for a week or so." "Oh, great. Say hi to Clarissa for me. Your mom was the one who inspired me to go to law school. Good luck, Mike." "Thanks again. See you, Chet." Michael turned to the children, who were already in their pajamas, and, bending his fingers like claws, growled, "Where are my little monsters?" The children squealed and jumped onto the bed, and Michael began to tickle them. Bill took his beloved daughter to a restaurant, but first checked her out of the hotel, inviting her to spend the night in the guest bedroom of his luxurious townhouse. Lynn agreed. Bill was divorced from her mother, who lived across town with her new partner. Lynn and her mother only communicated when necessary. After checking into the townhouse, Lynn got into her father's car and they went to dinner. At dinner, Bill was worried about his daughter, but was a little irritated by her behavior. He was angry, but softened it with a smile. After the initial anger subsided, they simply talked like father and daughter, enjoying dinner and expensive wine. Michael arrived at his lawyer's office a little early after dropping the children off at their grandmother's. Mika's secretary is a pretty brunette who smiled kindly at him. Michael introduced himself, and she checked the list of entries. "Oh, you are his first today, Michael. He'll be there soon. Should I bring you anything? Water, coffee, or something else?" Then I thought to myself, or maybe me? "No, thanks, honey. I'll just wait." She blushed slightly, embarrassed by her thoughts about Michael. Finally, Michael met with his new lawyer, and they sat down in his office. "So you and Chet were fraternity brothers. He told me a little about your situation, so I understand your problem. He says you have proof of cheating, so I will need it. This state recognizes no-fault divorce, so it has little impact on property division or child custody, but can serve as leverage in negotiations. He continued, "She'll get herself a lawyer, so we'll have to wait and see what they come up with. Don't expect to walk away with any money or have sole custody. Even though she cheated, and even if she was ridden more than American Pharaoh, she could still get the kids and maybe the house, plus half the joint assets. Welcome to American divorce. The house is mine, I had it before marriage, and it's registered only in my name," Michael interjected. Mick continued, "We will fight not to include it in the division, but she can claim half if she contributed her share to the mortgage payments. Divorce is about untangling ties, not about punishing bad behavior. We will also fight against child support and seek minimum payments for the children if they remain with her, because she could very well support them herself, judging by tax data. Her lawyer will still ask for alimony. If I were her, I would do the same. This is where your photos and transcripts come in handy. We will beat them with it, believe me," Michael interrupted. "Mick, I don't want her to be beaten up. As angry as I am, I want my children to respect me when they grow up and understand what we are deciding here today. I want justice, but I want it to go away." "Okay, Mike, I got it. But there are things that are simply reasonable to fight for, and anyone will understand that. No judge will take her children away from her unless she poses a clear threat to them. Cheating has nothing to do with this because, apparently, she is a good mother, even if she was not a good wife. At least you'll get rid of her and have a chance to start over. If you keep the house and can pay her her share, there is a high chance that you will become the primary caregiver, and then she will have to pay child support." Mick moved closer. "Look, Mike, just like a man. Give yourself time before you rush into the pool again. Work, take care of the children. I've seen too many guys who immediately after a divorce rush into dating, promiscuity, and only make their already bad situation worse. This is not legal advice, just good advice from a friend of a friend. The children will need a lot of attention from both of you. To win in other aspects, we must be generous with her visitation rights. Give me a list of all the liquid assets you have, and my secretary Molly will open the accounts for you. All you have to do is sign the papers. I will also file a request to freeze the accounts to prevent her from trying to drain them. I'll put together our proposal, and we'll have to meet with her and her lawyer. Judges look favorably on cases where the parties at least agree in general terms. And don't you dare, I repeat, don't you dare go after the guy she's dating. Her lawyer is using this against you because I would do the same thing. I'll let you know when you need to come for signatures. My fee is $3,000 up front, and my rate is $450 per hour. Will you pull it? Yes, I'll pull it. You will have the check by the end of the day." Mick stood up and shook Michael's hand. "Great. We'll be in touch, Michael." Leaving the office, Michael heard Molly's voice. "Goodbye, Michael." When he turned around, he saw a gentle smile on her sweet face. Paul had the day off today and spent the day with Jen. By noon, she came up to him, hugged him by the shoulders, kissed his neck, and asked, "Take me somewhere for lunch, Paul, and make it something cozy and private, honey." "Okay, I'll just finish one thing." He finished some plumbing work in the kitchen and said, "Looks like your panties somehow ended up in the drain, honey." "Oh, thank you, Paul. You are so skillful." When he stood up, she stood so close that she immediately embraced him and kissed him tenderly. "My hero," she said with a charming smile. At the restaurant, they ordered something light, and over coffee after eating, Jen said, "Paul, I need to talk to you." "Of course, dear, about anything." "Paul, I love you. You know it. But lately I feel like I've been ignoring you too much, the kids, the house, and everything else. I want to change this. You're free this weekend, so maybe we can go somewhere, just the two of us. I want us to get closer, especially now that Michael and Lynn are having problems. Paul, we need to be there for them. They are our best friends, and so we need to be okay with each other. Jen, I've always loved you, and I'm glad you want to make things right. You can always count on my support and love, dear. Just one thing. Just be careful with your panties near the drain, okay, honey?" She giggled and nodded. Paul knew that Jen was having an affair. He didn't like it, but if Michael and Lynn's problems scared her enough to settle down, he'd be there. But just this once, he was ready to give her a clean slate, but he was a little disappointed that she herself did not admit to her infidelities. He would forgive her. Maybe someday they can talk about it. He also realized that he now had an advantage. Jen wouldn't have a hard time finding another man, but finding someone who would be as constant in her life as he was a different matter entirely. If he files for divorce, she will have to look for a job to support the children, and she has no special skills. And pondering all this, he said, Jen, honey, I know that you will never betray me, but if we want everything to work out, we need to be on equal terms. So if I ever catch you cheating, from now on, I will file for divorce. Jen looked at Paul with wide eyes, and she was especially pleased that he had finally found where his masculine dignity lay. She swallowed and said, Yes, Paul, dear, I understand. Great. Glad we sorted it out. And yes, let's go for the weekend. I will leave the children with my mother. And buy yourself something lacy, sexy, and expensive that you can take with you. Okay, Paul. Thank you, darling. Ugh, she thought. It seems like I have a chance to get out. This bossy attitude of his turns me on. I think this guy is going to get such a beating in bed today. We still have a couple of hours before I need to pick up the kids. I'll make him a nice drink. Paul was so nice to me, and I acted like a complete bastard. This needs to change. They walked out of the restaurant, hugging each other, and Jen rested her head on his shoulder. The next morning, Michael and his lawyer Mick met with Lynn and her lawyer, Karen. Lynn looked tired and exhausted, and Michael suddenly felt some kind of pity for her, despite her recent sins against him. She looked at him, and he saw regret in her eyes. Hello, Michael, she said quietly. He nodded briefly. Lynn. While the lawyers bickered over the terms and conditions of the agreement, Michael simply looked at her. She slowly raised her tired but still beautiful eyes, and he saw tears in them. She glanced briefly at her lawyer, nodded at some question, but then looked again at Michael now with tenderness. Lynn was truly remorseful, but felt lost, not knowing how to win him back. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw Michael's lawyer push a folder with photographs and transcripts of conversations towards Karen. Lynn looked away, realizing how much she had hurt him. Now she was ready to agree to whatever terms his lawyer offered, trusting that Michael would treat her fairly. Michael and Lynn were still looking at each other when they heard Mick trying to get their attention to end the discussion. Mick offered to divide the jointly acquired property equally and also suggested that Michael buy out Lynn's share in the house. He planned to present a plan to the judge in which the children would remain in the home with Michael as guardian and Lynn would receive generous visitation rights to compensate for the separation. He argued that otherwise only children would suffer. Each of them kept their cars, sports and recreational equipment, and other property. Karen fought to have Lynn leave the house and be named the children's guardian, insisting that a dossier of photographs and records was not important. Lynn turned to Karen and said, Everything is fine. I accept all of Michael's suggestions. This included a reduction in child support, which Mick also fought for. Karen tried to convince her to give up this point, but Lynn replied, No, I accept what Michael suggested. He treats me fairly. Michael looked Lynn in the eyes, then looked at Karen and asked her to bill him for legal services. He will pay all expenses. Lynn teared up again, lowered her eyes, and smiled for the first time that day. Michael still loved Lynn, and Lynn hoped for a reconciliation in the future. She took her last chance, looked up at Michael, filled with tears, and said, Michael, I still love you. Then she lowered her head and cried quietly, covering her face with her hands. He wanted to touch her, and she wanted to touch him, but they both turned away and walked away with their lawyers, giving each other thoughtful glances. She cheated on him in the most terrible way, and he could not justify her action, but he still had feelings for her. A judge ultimately awarded the house and custody of the children to Michael. Lynn received payments from Michael for her share of the house, which more than offset the child support she had to pay. All other assets were divided equally, and personal property remained with each spouse. At Michael's insistence, Lynn received extensive visitation rights to the children. The marriage of Michael James and Lynn Marie Anderson was dissolved. Paul and Jen renewed their wedding vows while on vacation in Hawaii. Not for next weekend, but for the whole week. With tears in her eyes, Jen promised him fidelity, and to never lose her panties down the drain again. In honor of this event, Paul put another thin gold ring on her finger. They stayed together and maintained a strong, loving family. They continued to invite Michael and Lynn over, but separately. Jake took Janice to a small, secluded resort on the west coast of Mexico, where they swam, dined by candlelight, danced, and made love. On the last evening of their vacation, Jake invited her to a luxurious restaurant. She excused herself and went to the ladies' room, and when she returned, there was a small black velvet box next to her plate. Her eyes widened when she opened the box and saw the engagement ring. Jake got down on one knee and asked, "Will you marry me?" Janice exclaimed, "Yes, my beloved, oh hell yes." Michael and Lynn worked together to make sure their visits with the children were orderly, and Michael was very generous with her for the sake of the children who loved their mother so much. One night, after leaving the club, Tony received a surprise visit from Matt, Gary, the big guy, and a couple of their very large friends. They invited him into the sedan, seating him between two strong men in the back seat. They took him to the dam. They just wanted to scare him to death, and they did a great job of it. Having received a promise from him to never mess with other people's wives again, they set him on solid ground, dropping him. "Oh, sorry, buddy," Matt said sarcastically. They left him there, dressed only in his tight swimming trunks, to find his way home. A week later, Matt mailed him his clothes. No one ever found out what happened between him and his wife, Betty. The company fired him, and they moved to another city. Lynn, Cheryl, and Abigail were placed on probation by the firm for unprofessional conduct. Their pay was cut for 6 months, and Lynn's commission was reduced by 0.5%. It also put her prospect of a partnership in the company on hold indefinitely. 6 months later, while working on the plumbing in a second-floor bathroom, Paul pulled a pair of panties from a clogged drain and shouted, "Jen, subscribe to our channel so that your love doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think click to the next one."